Hi, and welcome to this episode of Consciousness and I. My name is Josephine, and I would like to invite us today to explore this concept of being emptiness. Or spaciousness, whatever you prefer. But how do we make it from just being a concept that we believe in or that we don't believe in, that we have in our head? How do we make it into our lived experience? How can we be absolutely certain that we're not a person or we're not a human? Because it feels like the first time we look at it, it's like I am a human being and I'm looking out through my eyes, through my head, and then I see the world. And I look at other people, being people, having a body and a head and looking out through their eyes. So if everyone else is people walking around with bodies, then I assume that I am as well. So let's question that a little bit. Is it actually my primary experience of the world? Do I really have the experience of looking out through my eyes, looking out through my body? I'd like to suggest that it's not. Because if I go to my visual experience right now, if I put out my hands, what you see as me, you see a person holding out her hands. But from my experience, that's not at all what I see. What I see is basically two hands, one on this side and one on that side, sticking out of emptiness, actually. It's like they're almost coming in on the frame. Does that make sense? Like if I take my hands and I move them backwards, eventually I don't see them anymore. You can see them, but I can actually not see them. And then when I bring them forward, it's almost like they come out of emptiness. That is my experience. So let's say I'd never seen myself in the mirror and I'd never met another person. I had nothing to reference. I wouldn't actually know what was behind this screen. I wouldn't actually know what was looking out. If I'd never seen my own face, from my visual perspective, I would basically feel like I was a void looking forward. The idea of a head and a face and looking out through my eyes, that's actually an idea. That's a mental construction. There's a almost like a picture drawn up in my mind. And at this moment, we're not questioning whether it's true or not. We're just going to the basic experience. The experience I have is that there's a void. There's something looking out in this direction. And all my visual inputs is from that side and all the way out to here. And when I reach my hands out, it looks like they actually pop out of nothing. Because whatever's behind me, you can see a wall and a painting and a blanket. But I can see any of those. If I were to go with my experience only, there's things out there, and then there's just void. Everything back here is void. My hands go into existence and out of existence. And the same is true for you. So, what you see when you look at me is not at all how I experience myself. And when I look at you, presuming that this wouldn't be a video recording, I would see a face. I would see eyes. I would see a body. But that's not really how you experience yourself. So, if I'm going to go by evidence, if I were to ask you to describe your experience of yourself, your raw experience before you made any mental constructs, you would tell me that you look out from emptiness. And when you put out your hands, it looks like they're reaching out. It looks like and it feels like they come out of this void. And you tell me that when you look at me, you see a face and you see a body, even though my experience is a void. In other words, we could say that the way my void looks to you through when you look at me through your eyes, it looks like a body and a face. And when I look at you, your void looks like a body and a face. So we could say that each other's voids look like a human manifestation, but when experienced from the inside, they're not experienced as a body or as eyes or as a face. And why is this even interesting? Well, from my own perspective, it can be a bit lonely. Like, it's easy to feel like you're the odd one out. Because I know myself from the inside, and then I know everyone else from the outside. And if I think that the way they appear to me, the way they appear as people, is the way that they experience themselves. And that means that everyone else is experiencing themselves as persons, as humans, as if they have faces, and that they are looking out through their eyes. And I'm the only one that has this, I'm kind of a void looking out, and I have this inner life where there's thoughts, there's emotions, there's energy flows through my body, there's contraction. And I don't at all experience myself as a person. I don't really know how I appear on the outside, because for me, what I say out loud and what I think, they're kind of interlinked. You know, when I, even making this video, I try to be as concrete and as articulate as possible. But I can only, how do I say, I can only evaluate what I say on the outside coupled with what I think on the inside. The parallels I draw inside my head, I try to convey to you, but you can only reference me from the outside, and I don't know what that looks like on its own. So a way of experience is that we ourselves actually appear to ourselves as more as emptiness looking out at the world, and that makes us no different from everyone else. Everyone else you meet feel exactly about themselves. And all of a sudden, from their perspective, you appear as one of those people who looks like you have a face and looks like you're a person. So if we zoom out, we all live in a world that everyone else is people or humans, and we're this void walking around. But none of that means that we're the odd one out. It actually means that there is not a single person walking around experiencing themselves as a person, experiencing themselves the way that they see other people. And in some way that's we all know that on some level. We're not surprised to hear that other people have inner lives, but it's very easy to forget that. It's very easy to think that, to live a life where you interact with people thinking that they're only their surface. You might know that they have deeper thoughts, but still you think that they experience them themselves the same way you do. But the fact is, none of us has even met ourselves. None of us have seen our own faces. As far as I'm concerned, there's one face in this world I've never seen, except for mirrors and videos, but actually in real life, and that's my own face. I experience my face from the inside. And there is no clear limit. There is no facial expressions. My facial expressions is how my emotions manifest on the outside, how my thoughts are shaped on the outside. And this is not just like a poetic way of describing it, and it's not even denying that the way my face move is correlated by my muscles. But if you want to stick to a non-dual perspective, then even our muscles is the way our inner mental life appear when looked out from the outside. So by understanding that the fact that I experiencing myself much more as a void is partly a way of liberating myself. I can truly explore this feeling of being a void because I don't have to shrink into being a person. A person is only how other people see me, because we all have limited headsets. We only have touch, taste, smell, vision. Our sense perception is all we have to take into the world. But the way your sense perceptions pick up me is not the way I experience myself. And the way my sense perspectives pick up you is not the way you experience in yourself. And what we also can do is to reach out or give each other the gift of understanding and relating to each other as though we are this expansive void, as though there are no limits to our inner lives. Maybe not void, spaciousness, this fullness without limitations. And to be seen as that, when someone looks at me and see myself more as I see myself, as a void, as emptiness, as ripples inside of consciousness, the more seen I feel, and usually the more loved I feel. And the easier it is to love someone else because they're not that alien from us. So the way they're experiencing themselves on the inside is similar to how we experience ourselves. I am not this inner life looking out at a world that's only external, that only has exterior. Or rather, the world isn't like my sense perceptions show it to me, and that we gain access to by talking to each other, by asking, what is it like to be inside of that face of yours? How do you actually experience in the world if you remove all your thought patterns about the world? If you don't put on the filter of I'm a person? If we had no narrative of being a person, if we've never met another human being, if we haven't been told what a human is or what a person is, our experience of ourselves would be much more raw. But we don't need to get rid of those perspectives. We just need to see through them. We need to see that they are not the truth. And when we come closer to what it's actually like to be ourselves, there's more freedom in that. And there's more truth. And it's easier to relate to other people, seeing them more as they experiencing themselves. More intimacy. Seeing each other as we truly are. What a gift. Seeing through the illusion of solidness. Not believing our sense perception. Using them. They're useful. We need them to walk around in this world. We need them to interact. But they're not the truth. And we don't need to take them for granted that what they're telling us is the truth. No, we're meant to interpret them. We're meant to apply our wisdom to them. And my own experience is the more I realize, the more I acknowledge that my experience of myself is more like a vast field of awareness. It's like my body can relax. It doesn't need to pretend that it has to have a certain shape or a certain form. I can be much more open to experience it the way it actually experiences. I'm not going to lose my ability to move my hand just because I don't limit my consciousness to take the form that's required to have a hand. But I'm going to liberate it. I think we all long for more softness, to be ourselves, to be truthful and to experience life the way it is, not limit ourselves, not make our experience smaller than it needs to be able to see each other and to relate. I think that was all that wanted to be shared in this episode. Thank you for sharing this moment with me. And if you have any questions, please comment below.